Hey guys, so I'm back with another video. This time it's going to be kind of sort of a 5 and 5, but there definitely will be more than 5 facts in this video, and it will definitely go over 5 minutes, I'm sure. This one is going to be on the Afro-Puerto Ricans, and I started out doing this. I was, doing some general research, and I did not expect to find as much information as I found, and I wanted to put out some really good key points and showcase them or highlight them in this video. But I definitely encourage you all to research on your own if you're interested, because there is a lot of information about Afro-Puerto Ricans, way more than I expected. So let's get right into it. Okay, so the first one is Puerto Rican, I'll list it down below, is the true name of the island of Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico simply just means rich port in Spanish. On March 22nd, 1873, slavery was abolished in Puerto Rico. The contributions of ethnic Africans to music, art, language, and heritage have been instrumental in Puerto Rican culture. In 1509, Juan Garrido was the first free black man to set foot on the island. He was a conquistador who was part of the Juan Ponce de Leon's entourage. Garrido was born on the West African coast, the son of an African king. So, fact number 2, another free black man who accompanied De Leon was Pedro Mahias. Mahias married a Taino woman, chief, a Casia, by the name of Yuisa. Yuisa was baptized as Catholic so that she could marry Mahias. She was given the Christian name of Luisa. The town Loíza, Puerto Rico, was named after her. And I included that because Loíza, Puerto Rico is the city where the majority that I know of our African Puerto Rican brothers and sisters down there live and they reside in. And of course it is a town, from what I've seen and learned of it, that is stricken with poverty and isolation, and just kind of isolated like typical Hebrew fashion. Number 3. This is a kind of a long one, so I'm actually read it pretty fast, but I'm just going to ask you guys to kind of listen closely. Fact number 3: African slaves were sent to work in the gold mines to replace the Taino, or to work in the fields in the island's ginger and sugar industries. They were allowed to live with their families in a bohio, or hut, on the master's land, and were given a patch of land where they could plant and grow vegetables and fruits. Blacks had little or no opportunity for advancement and faced discrimination from the Spaniards. Slaves were educated by their masters and soon learned to speak the master's language, educating their own children in the new language. They enriched the Puerto Rican Spanish language by adding words of their own. The Spaniards considered the blacks superior to the Taino, since the latter, or the Taino, were unwilling to assimilate. The slaves, in contrast, had little choice but to adapt to their lives. Many converted, at least nominally, to Christianity. They were baptized by the Catholic Church and were given the surnames of their masters. Many slaves were subject to harsh treatment, and women were subject to sexual abuse because of the power relationships. The majority of the conquistadors and farmers who settled the island had arrived without women. Many of them intermarried with the blacks or Tainos. Their mixed-race descendants formed the first generations of the early Puerto Rican population. And so I wanted to add this note because I thought it was very interesting that, once again, even down there, like the scripture says, whithersoever thou goest, these curses will pursue thee. And it was the exact same thing as it was here in the States, where blacks were stripped of their own language and their own cultures and customs. They were forced to speak a language they did not know, a tongue that they did not know. They were forced to serve gods that they did not know, nor their fathers knew. And Christianity and Catholicism is definitely one of that. And when I say that, I mean modern day Christianity. And the form of Christianity being a religion. And as we know in the scriptures, those who followed the Messiah after he was dead and raised, the Hebrews, they were considered messianic, and typically they would not have been called Christians because that wasn't his name. That wasn't his name in their language, in their tongue. So they wouldn't have been called Christians because they wouldn't have been, his name wasn't Jesus Christ in that language. That's what it translates to from the Greek. And the Catholicism is rooted in pagan worship and sun god worship, just as modern day Christianity is as well, because modern day Christianity is nothing but Hebrewism and Catholicism mixed together, and converted or perverted, I would say. But the women were raped by the slave masters. They were given their slave masters' last names, just like we were. I mean, it's just amazing, you know, how is the exact same situations going on down there as it was up here. Okay, moving right along to fact number 4. Under El Código Negro, or the Black Code, a slave could buy his freedom in the event that his master was willing to sell by paying the price sought. Slaves were allowed to earn money during their spare time by working as shoemakers, cleaning clothes, or selling the produce they grew on their own plots of land. Slaves were able to pay for their freedom by installments. They pay installments for the freedom of their newborn child, not yet baptized, at a cost of half the going price for a baptized child. Many of these freedmen started settlements in the areas which became known as Cangrejos, Santurce, Carolina, Canovanas, Loíza, and Luquillo. Some became slave owners themselves, and I added that because I found it interesting that even after a slave would buy himself to be free, in Puerto Rico, some of them in turn turned around and became slave owners themselves, and I mean, that's just crazy to me. I mean, we did it here in the States too. We definitely had some black people that owned slaves, and I know that in our history as Hebrews, we definitely had slaves or indentured servants or handmaidens or manservants, but not in this sense. And the scripture definitely tells us to not rule over our brethren. So I always find that strange, the mindset that, you know, a Negro can rule over another Negro, can enslave another Negro, especially one that came out of that same process themselves. I don't know, I thought that was kind of weird and strange. Okay, fact number 5, the native-born Puerto Ricans or Criollos who wanted to serve in the regular Spanish army petitioned the Spanish crown for that right. In 1741, the Spanish government established the Regimiento Fijo de Puerto Rico. Many of the former slaves, now freedmen, joined either the Fijo or the local civil militia. Puerto Ricans of African ancestry played an instrumental role in the defeat of Sir Ralph Abercrombie in the British invasion in Puerto Rico in 1797. Now, I added this because this definitely reminded me of how many of our brothers and sisters, our Hebrew brothers fought in the war, the Civil War, and that nature. And we've just always been, I mean, without our help, you know, I'm pretty sure that these countries would have not succeeded in the way that they did in terms of militia and government. I mean, not government, but in terms of militia and battle. And so I found that interesting that a lot of the history in Puerto Rico parallels with the history that happened here in the mainland of the States. And then fact number 6, as of the 2010 census, 75.8 or 76 Puerto Ricans identify as white, 12.4 identify as black, 0.5 as Amerindian, 0.2 as Asian, and 11.1 as mixed other. Although estimates vary, most sources estimate that about 46% of Puerto Ricans have significant African ancestry. The vast majority of blacks in Puerto Rico are Afro-Puerto Rican, meaning they have been in Puerto Rico for generations, usually since the slave trade, forming an important part of Puerto Rican culture and society. And I added this for 2 reasons. One being that the scripture said that wherever Yahweh would lead us, and scatter us rather, we would be few in number, the least in number, and that goes to show still. Same as here in the States, we are considered to be about 13%, last I heard, of the population of America, which is about 366 million or something like that. We're considered to be, actually, it's not even 10%. I'm sorry, 13%. And so, and then down in Puerto Rico, you know, they have 12% identifying as black, whereas 76% identify as white. That's a huge gap. And then I also wanted to bring this out because I know that a lot of our Hebrew brothers and sisters teach that the American Indian, the black, the Negro Hispanic and Native American are Hebrews, and I can't go with that solely. I don't go with that. I believe that the Negro is the Hebrew. The Negro DNA is the Hebrew. And I'm not saying that some of our people will not be mixed, because certainly we will be, because we've been mixing and intermarrying with the people that we lived amongst throughout our history of us being scattered and shipped into slavery. But this here just points out that how 76% of the Puerto Ricans identify as white. And if you look at a lot of the DNA tests online, you'll see that Puerto Ricans, a lot of them have an overwhelmingly large amount of European DNA. So I do not see them as Hebrews, because you can't, in my opinion, I don't see you being 2/3 white or European and maybe 1/3 or less Negro or African, and claiming to be a Hebrew. I'm not, you may have Hebrew blood in you, but I just don't see how that works. And same thing with the Native Americans. The majority of them that we know of today are Mongolian descent, which would be like Asians. So they wouldn't have Negro blood in them. Now, the original copper-colored that were found here before Christopher Columbus, and even when Christopher Columbus came, I would go as far as to say that those were Hebrews, possibly only because there's some research that shows that Christopher Columbus had to bring Hebrew translators when they came to the Americas, as well as in the Caribs when they met the Carib Indians. But because of all the mixing and the separation, also because of the race and not wanting to live with or mix with a Negro, so to speak, that's how you have this huge gap of 75.8% Puerto Ricans identify themselves as white, and they typically have the lighter skin, the straighter hair, the more European features. And some may have darker complected skin just from having a bit of the African blood in them. But when you Google Afro-Puerto Ricans, there's no debate as to what their DNA overwhelmingly is. So that's just interesting to me. And then I also wanted to point out some notable Puerto Ricans, Afro-Puerto Ricans. Rafael Cordero, he was born free in San Juan, Puerto Rico, of African descent. He became known as the father of public education in Puerto Rico. Cordero was a self-educated Puerto Rican who provided free schooling to children regardless of their race. Among the distinguished alumni who attended Cordero School was future abolitionist Roman, I don't know how to say that last name, Alejandro Tapia y Rivera, Jose Julian Acosta. Cordero proved that racial and economic integration can be possible and accepted in Puerto Rico. In 2004, the Roman Catholic Church, upon the request of San Juan Archbishop Roberto Gonzalez Neves, began the process of Cordero's beatification. He was not the only one in his family to become an educator in 1820. His older sister, Celestina Cordero, established the first school for girls in San Juan. And these, again, are Afro-Puerto Ricans. Jose Campeche, he was born a free man. He contributed to the island's culture. Campeche's father, Tomas Campeche, was a free slave born in Puerto Rico. And his mother, Maria Jordan Marquez, came from the Canary Islands. Since she was considered European or white, her children were born free. And I thought that was interesting because that didn't happen in the States, not that I know of. But anyway, of mixed race, Campeche was classified as a mulatto, a common term during his time, meaning African European descent. Campeche is considered to be the foremost Puerto Rican painter of religious themes of the era. And last but not least, Captain Miguel Henrique was a former pirate who became Puerto Rico's first black military hero by organizing an expeditionary force that defeated the British in the islands of Vieques. Captain Henriquez was received as a national hero when he returned to the island of Vieques, back to the Spanish Empire in Puerto Rico. He was awarded La Medalla de Oro de la Ifigie, and the Spanish crown named him Captain of the Seas, awarding him a letter of marque in reprisal, which granted him privileges of a privateer. So that is my 5 and 5 on Afro-Puerto Ricans, and that is not even, I mean, that's just the surface of it. I mean, just doing a basic search on Wikipedia, man, you have so much information, and I wanted to include so much more, but I didn't want to make this super long and boring. So I wanted to go ahead and pull out what I figured was the most like outstanding facts to me that I wanted to share about the Afro-Puerto Ricans, and I hope that was good, and I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, please comment down below. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye-bye.
He's among the kings of Latin American hip-hop, but in a genre dominated by sex and style, his is the voice for the underdog.
It's the heart of Puerto Rico right here, Tego Calderon.
This is my blog.
What are the significance of the drums?
This is the African heritage of Puerto Rico. This is the music they used to play, and it's all over the island. It's not only from Loíza. Everywhere where Africans are, there's a different way of playing it, a different way of dancing it, but this is the African heritage.
Tell them exactly where we are.
We're really in a place that not even Puerto Ricans come. This is the hottest, the roughest. This is me. This is my block, Loíza.
Loíza, all right, and these are the people of Loíza. What is its heritage? What makes Loíza one of the unique areas of Puerto Rico?
It's been 100% black population, where the free slaves came, they got this land, they did the best they could. The history of blacks down here, they feel ashamed of the color of their skin, you know, constantly on TV. They're trying to make us laugh about us. You know, they paint their faces and all that. That's why I talk about it, and I'm not done with that.
You know what's like peculiar in the sense is when you come from other places, like I live in the States, you would think that when you think Puerto Rico that everybody lived under one umbrella and came from the same place, so the color of skin doesn't matter.
That's what they teach you in school is like we're a trilogy of races, black, Spanish, and Indian. It's not like that, you know. The way we are treated in society, jobs, school, blacks in Puerto Rico are inferior in another level. And so now having the power of doing music, I like to talk to people on Tego's point of view. This is how I see things. Hate me or love me, I really don't care. Been hard for Loíza forever, but people down here are happy, and we have a lot of fun down here.
It's a part of that African heritage that you talk about in Loíza, right?
That's what it is. That's what I want them to know, yo. This is beautiful down here. This is my block, Loíza.